This episode of HydroShow is sponsored by HydroMag, the UK's independent hydroponics magazine.
Welcome to the penultimate episode of HydroShow.
Let's have a look at what's on today's programme.
Coming up on episode 5 of HydroShow, we show you how to calculate out the correct ventilation and lighting in your grow room. Pooja interviews Dennis of Geopots at the Manchester Grow Expo. We see two very different approaches to CO2 production at Southcoast Hydroponics. Robbie from Metrop tells us the importance of calcium in plant nutrition. Another elaborate grow room gets built in the HydroShow studio. And Gemma sees a modified Wilma system at the Aquaculture greenhouse. All this and more on the world's first hydroponics TV show. You may be familiar with building your own hydroponic setups at home, but what about building your own setups using parts from IKEA? Well, a new book entitled LU tells you how to do just that. Now we're joined by the book's author, Antonio Scarpone. Antonio, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, what first gave you the idea for publishing this book as opposed to manufacturing your own hydroponic system?
Well, the idea was conceived in a moment in which I realized that instead of inventing a new production change, I could just make a book and tell people how to build an hydroponic system.
And what made you decide to use items found at IKEA stores?
Well, IKEA is everywhere and it's a standard, and I wanted to design something extremely simple that everyone could do it. IKEA would simplify the process even further because it's a standard available everywhere. The costs are very reasonable. Plus, actually, I found out that those boxes I use are produced in Europe, in Italy, and they are PBA-free, which is also interesting for the farming industry because not many of the product in the farming industry is actually PBA-free.
So, who is the book actually for?
This book is for everyone who's interested in food, in how to grow food at home or in an office using water instead of soil, basically. But it's like a recipe book. When you buy a recipe book, you don't necessarily have to cook what you read, but it's also for inspiration, to get inspired. In the end, this is what the book is all really about, to get inspired.
You very kindly sent us a copy of your book a few weeks ago, and we showed it to a number of professionals in the hydroponic industry, all who thought it was a great idea. But should they be scared of your DIY approach to hydroponics?
Well, I think they should be happy about it because half of the Helio is made of IKEA parts, and the other half is made of hydroponics equipment. So, in a way, it will help and contribute to that economy. In fact, the book is also meant to be distributed in those shops, and I think the idea of Helio is that it's like a seed. It's a seed that needs to be farmed. And shops are crucial because they can give people support, they can give them tips and sell the equipment. So it's a real special places where I like to think of objects connected to people and they can carry the story that is attached to them.
And finally, what are you really trying to achieve by publishing this book?
The purpose of Helio is to show how simple hydroponics is and how easy it is to get engaged with it and grow food at home. And eventually to inspire people into grow into it and design and try their own systems.
Antonio, thank you very much for your time today. We think the book's great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, if you'd like to get your hands on a copy of LEU, it's available as an ebook from Amazon and iTunes, and also as a hard copy from Amazon and directly from leu.com. In the last episode of Season 1, the girls will be building their own hydroponic systems based on the LEU book in the Presenter Challenge.
So it's that part of the show again where we are given a presenter challenge. So let's see what the producer has in store for us this week.
Thank you. In the studio, you will see 2 desks and chairs, one for each of you. On the desks, you will find a test. Simply answer the questions in the test. You have 30 minutes. The winner is the person who gets the most questions correct. Please take your places.
While the girls are doing their tests, let's go over a few ventilation and lighting basics. In order to provide your plants with clean, fresh air, it is recommended that you replace the air in your grow room at least 12 times per hour. As well as their dimension in inches or millimetres, inline fans are rated in meters cubed per hour. To calculate how much air you need to move, the formula is the length of the room multiplied by the width of the room multiplied by the height of the room multiplied by 12, and this equals meters cubed per hour. In a grow room or grow tent, you must have negative pressure. Negative pressure is created by having more air pulled out of a room than is being pulled into the room. By having negative pressure, you make sure that the air is taken out of the room through the point of extraction and not through any unsealed nooks and crannies the room may have. An example rough guideline ratio for air intake against air extract is 2:3 or 3:4. For example, air intake equals 2 parts versus air extract 3 parts. Or in the case of 3:4, air intake equals 3 parts versus air extract equals 4 parts. Length times width times height times 12 is fine if you're using just one light. However, if you're using multiple non-air cooled lights, you really need to move more air in order to keep the temperature down. This is especially important in grow tents. When calculating for multiple lights, do the same calculation of length times width times height times 12, then multiply this by the number of lights you are using. You then should have sufficient air movement to keep your grow room temperature down. Now, one of the most commonly asked questions in grow stores is how much light do I need? Well, the answer is subjective. However, this is what we recommend. Metal halide and sodium lamps consume a lot of electricity, so it's advised that you use an optimum amount of light in your grow room. More watts in power doesn't necessarily mean more yield. To avoid wasting electricity, you should calculate the amount of light you need by using the following calculation. Minimum of 400 watts per square metre. Maximum of 600 watts per square metre. Still to come on HydroShow. Pooja interviews Dennis of Geopots at the Manchester Grow Expo. We see 2 very different approaches to CO2 production at Southcoast Hydroponics. Robbie from Metrop tells us the importance of calcium in plant nutrition. Another elaborate grow room gets built in the HydroShow studio. And Gemma sees a modified Wilma system at the Aquaculture greenhouse. All this and more on the world's first hydroponics TV show.
This episode of HydroShow is sponsored by HydroMag, the UK's independent hydroponics magazine.
Are you ready for bigger yields? Use the Advanced Nutrients Bigger Yields growing systems for the optimum results. hobbyist, expert, professional, grandmaster. More info at www.advancednutrientsuk.co.uk.
At Holland Hydroponics, you'll find a wide variety of hydroponic systems, accessories, plant nutrition, and the latest hydroponic innovations, always in stock. Visit www.hydroponics.co.uk to find these fantastic offers. Holland's Hydroponics, open in Manchester, Burnley, Huddersfield, and our new store in Flint, North Wales.
Hello, I'm Brad.
And I'm Matt. Welcome to Southcoast Hydroponics.
Do you want a nutrient that matches all the requirements of any plant you choose to grow? Well, let us introduce to you the aroma formula. So variable, it fits all the plants you want to grow indoors. Speed up plant growth. Increase yields. Trusted by the professionals. Results you can easily see for yourself. The aroma formula. Now available at all fine hydroponic shops.
With stores in Barnsley, Ripley and this superstore in Sheffield, Aquaculture is the obvious choice for Yorkshire's hydroponic gardeners. Fully stocked with the latest and greatest hydroponic products, at Aquaculture we pride ourselves on quality service and advice. Whether you're a beginner or an expert, come and see our greenhouse facility in Sheffield and we'll show you how hydroponics really work. Aquaculture Hydroponics, stores in Barnsley, Ripley and Sheffield, or online at www.aquaculture-hydroponics.co.uk.
This episode of HydroShow is sponsored by HydroMag, the UK's independent hydroponics magazine.
Last year at Grow Expo 2012 in Manchester, I met up with Dennis of Geopots, who introduced me to his rather unique twist on fabric plant containers. Hi and welcome back. I'm now with Dennis from Geopot. Welcome Dennis, thank you for coming to the show today.
Thank you.
He'll be talking to us about the fabric plant containers, which are brand new to the UK market. So why would somebody use a fabric plant container rather than the conventional plastic plant pot?
Yeah, well the reason that they would use the fabric plant container is air root pruning. And so what happens in the fabric plant containers is when the roots grow out to the inside edge of the plant container, they'll actually get trapped, the root tips will get trapped in the loose fabric, and because it's porous, the air on the outside of the container will prune the tips of those roots. That's air root pruning, and that forces the roots to branch out further back on the root system with more fibrous roots. The fibrous roots are your feeder roots. They're more efficient in taking up the water and the nutrients. So you end up with thousands of fibrous roots throughout the root zone, rather than like in a plastic pot. They'll grow out to the inside edge of the container, and then they'll circle the container, and they'll continue to circle the container without being able to being forced to branch out with those lateral feeder roots. And so that's the primary advantage. The secondary advantage is the whole container is porous and breathable, so it lets air into the root zone. It creates a healthy environment for the roots, and when the soil dries out, it'll dry out more evenly throughout the whole container rather than just from the top down.
So can you tell us what differentiates Geopot from other fabric plant containers out there in the market?
Yeah, what differentiates the Geopot is the construction of our pots. We use a really high-grade fabric, and if you feel it, it's very thick and really, really strong. We use a bonded polyester thread, which is the same thread used in like sails and sailboats. It's UV protected, it can stay wet without decaying. We fold over the top lip of the container, and it makes it more rigid so it doesn't flop in when you're trying to water or fill it with soil. We have options of having handles that are sewn on. They're really strong and durable. It's really convenient to move your containers around. And then we also offer it in black or tan, just for the preference. Sometimes it's aesthetics. Sometimes there's reasons for if it's outside heat, the tan doesn't warm up quite as much as the black would. And then we have the option of our Velcro seam container. It's really nice for transplanting. So a lot of growers will start out in a smaller container, then move up to a larger container for flowering. This makes it nice to open up and get that root ball out without having any plant shock during transplanting.
Thank you for your time today. And that was Dennis from Geopots.
If you're interested in finding out more about fabric plant containers, visit our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/HydroShow TV, where we also interview Nicholas Saint-Marie of Smart Pots. Now, here we normally have the quick tips section of the show. However, today's subject is a little harder to explain.
The subject is adding carbon dioxide to your grow room. And while we were down at Southcoast Hydroponics in Portsmouth, we were introduced to two very different ways of producing grow room CO2.
Okay, well now I'm joined by Roger from Growing Innovations. Roger has brought a CO2 generator for us to talk about. Hi Roger, how are you?
Hi Nick, I'm well, cheers.
So how does a CO2 generator work?
Well, basically a gas CO2 generator burns propane gas to produce CO2, which is good because we all know that's what our plants need. But the main problem with a CO2 generator usually would be the fact that an immense amount of heat is produced in that process.
So how is it that you've managed to create a product that creates less heat than other conventional CO2 generators?
So basically this CO2 generator here has a heat exchanger inside it. And you know, you've got a reservoir here with a pump. Water is circulated around the unit, and all the heat that's produced inside is literally absorbed straight into the water and taken away. So all the CO2 gas that comes out is relatively cool, not affecting the growing environment.
So how can we control the levels of CO2?
Well Nick, the CO2 generator would be connected to a CO2 controller, which has a sensor which would be continuously measuring the levels of CO2 in the environment. When the levels would drop below your set parameter, the cool gen would kick in and it would produce CO2 until you get to the higher set parameter. Because of the cooling feature on the cool gen, we've been able to cram a very powerful 16 kilowatt flame in there. So these levels can be reached very quickly. So the unit is coming on for very short periods of time and then off again. Okay.
Is there any danger of the pilot light being blown out?
No, there's no pilot light on the cool gen, no standing pilot at all. It's got a state-of-the-art electronic ignition inside. So as soon as the controller says CO2 is needed, the cool gen will ignite, and you're away.
Fantastic. Okay, so we have spoken a little bit about it. Now can you show us how it works?
Yeah, sure, Nick. Well, this is actually a display model here. So essentially, this switch here effectively would be like pressing this is like the CO2 controller activating the cool gen. So you know, if we press this now, you can see the flame inside. Cool gen's going. You know, you can put your hand over there. 16 kilowatt, no heat. So basically, what's happening is we've got a pump in here. This is a reservoir full of water. Okay. So as soon as the CO2 controller wants more CO2, it turns the pump on. Water is pumped around the cool gen and back out. And as soon as that water reaches the right pressure inside, the cool gen will ignite, okay, and you're away. As soon as the controller's happy, it's reached the environment's reached the desired levels, it will turn the pump off and flame out.
So how much CO2 can this actually create?
The cool gen is capable of producing sort of around 3.5 kilos of CO2 an hour. Right. It's quite immense.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of CO2.
What sort of size room would you use this to operate?
Because of the cooling feature and the speed it produces the CO2, you know, it's possible to use it in an environment as small as 2 square meters, setting it on the the high level, 16 kilowatt, it's it's possible to operate in a room up to around 30 square metres.
And can you explain a little bit about the controls on the front here?
Yes, Nick. Well, basically all the controls on the front are really there for the different size environments you're going to use it in. It gives you full adjustability of the flame, the water flow. You've got min and max water flow, so you can have maximum cooling, or if you want to slow the water flow down a bit, you can let a bit of heat out into the room if need be. So essentially, if you were in a 2 square metre room, you would stick it on the 8 kilowatt setting and you'd have the flame down nice and low. Okay? And obviously in a larger room you would have it running full chat. Okay.
So can you just quickly summarise the main benefits of the CoolGen?
Yeah, sure, Nick. As I said earlier, it produces an abundance of CO2 with minimal effect on the temperature of your growing environment. And it runs on propane gas, which is highly accessible from your garden centre, your local garage, hardware store. So yeah, so basically, if you're a serious grower, you're looking for constant high levels of CO2. The CoolGen is the way to go.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time today.
No problem. Thank you.
Cheers. Earlier on in the show, Roger from Growing Innovation showed us his CO2 generator. Now Matt from Southcoast is going to show us how a more natural solution can work in a tent.
Thank you. These are the new CO2 bags that are on the market. They've just come out. Literally the beauty of these is you're not having no tanks, no gas bottles, no pumps, no wiring, no nothing. They're perfectly natural. All you do, very similar to what we've done here, you just hang it up in the tent. They're activated by the actual light and the heat, which swells the bag up, lets out a steady stream of CO2 through the breather hole, and it will do about 4 plants. And a bag like that will last you about 3 months.
3 months?
About 3 months, yeah. So they are absolutely excellent. I wouldn't use them for big rooms. I'd stick with what we looked at earlier, which is the proper CO2. But for grow tents, these are absolutely fantastic.
And once you finish it, presumably you can just buy another one and
just buy another one, hang it up in the room exactly like this. So if you're using 1 square metre tent, 1 bag's sufficient. If you're going to use bigger than that, then you can stick 2 or 3 bags in.
Fantastic, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Give me a cuddle.
Now it's time for some hydroponic science.
Here's Robbie from Metrop explaining the importance of calcium.
In this episode we're going to talk about calcium. Calcium is a very important element, and next to the elements N, P and K, nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, calcium is the 4th important element for a plant. If you have not enough calcium in the plant, you will create smaller plants. We have a product, it's named CalGreen. It's a 22.5% liquid calcium that's already connected with some protein. Calcium got a few important functions. One of the functions is outside the plant in the rooting zone. Without calcium, the plant cannot eat other elements. Calcium is like the spoon who takes some nutrients and gives that to the roots of the plant. But that means that if there is no calcium, the plant cannot eat. The element calcium and the element phosphor, you cannot put it together in one bottle. That will react to Gibbs. That's why you see very often fertilizers with an A and a B compound. One is the phosphor and the other one is the calcium. When you have a 1 compound fertilizer, that means there is no calcium in it, or the calcium that's in it is already connected with the phosphor, so that means it works less. A 1 compound fertilizer you can only use for growing on soil, and only when you have new soil, because there is some calcium already in the soil. But if you already want to reuse your soil, the calcium is already out. That means that if you want to reuse your soil, you have to buffer it with some extra rock calcium. In the plant itself, the most calcium is sitting in the cell wall. And the calcium there is already connected with protein. That calcium we already made in the bottle CalGreen And we also made it in a way that the plant can eat it very easy, very fast. This is my #1 product on the professional horti market, and we call it the cement for the cells. We make all the cell walls thicker, harder and stronger, so we have less problems with fungi and bacterials. Fruit we can store much longer in the cooling cells before we can sell it for the best price on the market. But also the end product is very often sold by weight, and with the use of cow green, the end product has much more weight, and weight is money.
It's now time for this week's competition.
As always, we're giving you 2 ways to win yourself some hydroponic goodies. And here's Nick to tell you how.
It's time to stop showing you our hydroponic products and start giving you some of your own. At the end of HydroShow Season 1, we're giving away a grow system of your dreams, including a full AgroTent vertical growing system, full ventilation kit, 2 complete digital lighting ballasts and a set of plant nutrients, all courtesy of Ecosystem. The prize, worth over £3,000, will be drawn at the end of Season 1 in September, and best of all, it's completely free to enter. By entering this week's competition, you'll be automatically entered to win the Season 1 prize. This episode's weekly competition is sponsored by Hesse Plant Nutrients of Holland. Entering this week's competition is simple. All you have to do is like the competition image on our Facebook page. The winner of the weekly competition will be selected at random after Sunday's show and contacted anonymously through Facebook. The winner of our grand prize will be drawn after the Season 1 repeat in October. Visit facebook.com/HydroShow. The HydroShow competition is only available to UK and Ireland residents. Further terms and conditions apply. Still to come on HydroShow. Another elaborate grow room gets built in the HydroShow studio, and Gemma sees a modified Wilma system at the Aquaculture greenhouse. All this and more on the world's first hydroponics TV show.
This episode of HydroShow is sponsored by HydroMag, the UK's independent hydroponics magazine.
Do you want a nutrient that matches all the requirements of any plant you choose to grow? Well, let us introduce to you the aroma formula. So variable it fits all the plants you want to grow indoors. Speed up plant growth. Increase yields. Trusted by the professionals. Results you can easily see for yourself. The aroma formula. Now available at all fine hydroponic shops.
Are you ready for bigger yields? Use the Advanced Nutrients Bigger Yields growing systems for the optimum results. Hobbyist. Expert. Professional. Grandmaster. More info at www.advancednutrientsuk.co.uk.
Next time you're in your local hydroponics store, why not pick up a copy of HydroMag? HydroMag brings you in-depth information about all aspects of hydroponic growing, from growth mediums to systems. In fact, everything you need to grow your seed can be found in HydroMag. HydroMag is written by growers for growers. HydroMag, hydroponics, urban living, and so much more. So why not visit our website www.hydromag.co.uk.
Hello, I'm Brad.
And I'm Matt. Welcome to Southcoast Hydroponics.
This episode of HydroShow is sponsored by HydroMag, the UK's independent hydroponics magazine.
Before the break, we gave Gemma and Pooja an exam to see if they could correctly work out the amount of ventilation and lighting required in grow rooms. Let's see how they're getting on. Now back to the presenter challenge, where the girls have been sat in exam conditions for the last half an hour. So, as mentioned previously, these calculations are subjective and some stores may offer different advice. We've gone for a calculation that will ensure safety in your grow room. Here are a few example calculations which the girls did in the exam. For ventilation, here is the first question. Question 1. Work out the minimum amount of air you need to move in this room. Room length, 4 meters. Room width, 3 meters. Room height, 3 meters. So the answer is 4 meters times 3 meters times 3 meters, and that equals 36. 36 times 12 equals 432 meters cubed per hour. Looks like both girls got that one right. For lighting, we asked them the following question. Question 5. In an area measuring 3 meters by 3 meters, what is the recommended wattage of light required? To work out the answer, you do the following calculation. 3 meters times 3 meters equals 9 meters squared. 9 times 400 watt, which equals the minimum light required, equals 3,600 watts. 9 times 600 watts equals the maximum light recommended, which equals 5,400 watts. In the last question, we asked them to calculate the following ventilation and lighting required using what they had learnt. If you have a 1.2 meter times 1.2 meter times 2 meter tent, what are the maximum and minimum lamps you should use? 250 watt, 400 watt, 600 watt, or 1000 watts? Now of course, using the calculation, they would do a 1.2 times 400 and 1.2 times 600 watts to work out the maximum. However, there is no such thing as a 480 watt lamp or a 720 watt lamp. Hence, they should treat the tent as though it was a 1 meter tent. Hence the minimum is 400 watts and the absolute maximum is 600. Secondly, we gave them a choice of fans and asked which they should use for intake and which for extraction. As this is only a 1.2 by 1.2 by 2 meter area, they only really need the smallest fan for extraction. However, they need to create negative pressure, so they should select the second smallest fan for extraction and the smallest for intake. Fan 1 is 175 meters cubed per hour, 100 millimeters and 4 inch. Fan 2 is 225 meters cubed per hour, 125 millimeters and 5 inch. So now it's time to tot up the scores, and it looks like both girls got 4 out of 8, which means no ridiculous celebration shot in this week's episode.
4 out of 8, so you got 50% there. Well done.
Oh, thank you. And you got the same as well.
Yay! Draw!
If you want to know more about this subject, see issue 6 of our official magazine.
And now it's time for the HydroShow news.
Atami's latest product is the popular Blossom Builder, now available in liquid form. Designed to feed the plant's needs for phosphorus and potassium, Blossom Builder liquid is high concentrate, needing only 0.25 ml per litre, meaning 1 litre makes 400 litres of solution.
The Mabo fire extinguisher may be the saviour of your indoor garden, your home and even your life. Weighing less than 1 kilogram and being smaller than a kitchen roll, the Mabo is ideal for grow tents and grow rooms up to 16 square metres in size. The contents of the Mabo are a closely guarded secret, but all you need to know is that when it's discharged, the fire will be put out in a matter of seconds, and all of your electrical equipment will still be safe for use afterwards. The Mabo fire extinguisher is safe for use around pets. More information is available in issue 4 of HydroMag.
Seed bombs from kabloom.co.uk are the weapons of choice for guerrilla gardeners. These flower grenades are handmade in the UK from recycled, organic, eco-friendly and biodegradable materials. Simply soak it, throw it and grow it on unsuspected wastelands for a blast of floral colour. Seed bombs break down over time and biodegrade into the environment, leaving only flowers behind.
A man trying his luck at putting some style into home gardening is industrial designer Marko Vukovic. His creation, the grass lamp, incorporates hydroponics into lighting for the home. Arguably, Marko's design is edging more towards quirky furniture than indoor garden, but the designer is certainly testing the boundaries of hydroponic form. Vukovic shows us that maybe it's about time to put some good looks into home hydro systems.
A designer by the name of Antonio Scarponi is doing something rather different when it comes to hydroponics. His new book, LEU, teaches people how to set up their own hydroponic systems at home, using parts only found in IKEA. We think this is such an inspiring way for non-growers to create their very first setup at home.
Advanced Nutrients UK have now replaced their humic and fulvic acids range with a new product called Ancient Earth. The humic and fulvic products, formerly known as Grandma Engi's H1 and F1, have now been combined into one bottle.
With the hopefully hot summer months just around the corner, air-cooled lighting could make the difference between a hot or a cold grow room. To help you tackle the heat, GrowLush introduced their air-cooled lighting range, now available in 2 sizes. Competitively priced, the reflectors known as the GrowLush Medium and the GrowLush Triple XL give your summer indoor grow room a better environment for your precious crops.
Still to come on HydroShow. Another elaborate grow room gets built in the HydroShow studio, and Gemma sees a modified Wilma system at the Aquaculture greenhouse. All this and more on the world's first hydroponics TV show.
This episode of HydroShow is sponsored by HydroMag, the UK's independent hydroponics magazine.
Next time you're in your local hydroponics store, why not pick up a copy of HydroMag? HydroMag brings you in-depth information about all aspects of hydroponic growing, from growth mediums to systems. In fact, everything you need to grow your seed can be found in HydroMag. HydroMag is written by growers for growers. HydroMag, hydroponics, urban living, and so much more. So why not visit our website www.hydromag.co.uk.
Are you ready for bigger yields? Use the Advanced Nutrients Bigger Yields growing systems for the optimum results. Hobbyist, expert, professional, grandmaster. More info at www.advancednutrientsuk.co.uk.
Do you want a nutrient that matches all the requirements of any plant you choose to grow? Well, let us introduce to you the aroma formula. So variable it fits all the plants you want to grow indoors. Speed up plant growth. Increase yields. Trusted by the professionals. Results you can easily see for yourself. The Aroma Formula. Now available at all fine hydroponic shops.
Hello, I'm Brad.
And I'm Matt. Welcome to Southcoast Hydroponics.
At Holland Hydroponics, you'll find a wide variety of hydroponic systems, accessories, plant nutrition, and the latest hydroponic innovations, always in stock. Visit www.hydroponics.co.uk to find these fantastic offers. Holland's Hydroponics, open in Manchester, Burnley, Huddersfield, and our new store in Flint, North Wales. This episode of HydroShow is sponsored by HydroMag, the UK's independent hydroponics magazine.
It's now time for another mega room where the industry's experts build an elaborate grow room in the HydroShow studio.
This week is the turn of Southcoast Hydroponics in Portsmouth. Can they wow us with their gargantuan grow room? Let's find out.
As with some of our previous grow rooms, Southcoast split the HydroShow demo area into three main sections. One for mother plants, another for cloning, and a main growing area. For the mother plant area, Southcoast used a Hortiline Hortilab 2.4 by 1.2 metre tent with two vegetator 24 pot grow systems. One system incorporated the standard plastic pots, whereas the other featured Smart Pot fabric plant containers. For lighting in this tent, Southcoast provided a D Papillon 315 watt 230 volt daylight lamp, a self-contained light reflector and ballast in one. For extraction, an RVK A1 6-inch extraction fan keeps the air in the room fresh, while two GreenPad CO2 generators and an Easy CO2 mycelial mass bag keeps the room supplied with carbon dioxide. Controlling the electronics in the mother area is a Green Power 5-way hobby relay timer. The cloning takes place in a Grow Lab clone lab lit by a Lightwave T5 4-foot HU propagation light. The clones themselves were homed in a 105-cell aeroponic propagator. The main growing area features four 9-pot Wilma drip irrigation systems filled with Growstone's hydroponic substrates made from recycled glass. Lighting the grow area are six 600 watt E-Papillon grow lights Again, self-contained light reflector and ballast in one. Definitely the brightest looking 600 watt lamps we've had in the studio. Controlling these lights is a Green Power 6-way professional contactor. To keep the main growing area cool, Southcoast included a 10-inch ISOMAX Air Force fan controlled by an SMS twin fan speed controller. To provide extra humidity in the room, Southcoast included a Mist Pro humidifier. On the wall in the main room is a Max Min digital thermo hygrometer for keeping an eye on essential environmental readings.
Thank you to Southcoast for giving us that interesting mega room.
Yes, thank you. And remember, all of Season 1's mega rooms will be explained in greater detail in our official magazine, HydroMag.
Just keep an eye out in issues 5, 6 and 7 of HydroMag, available from July 2013 onwards.
Finally, I went to see Simon at Aquaculture, who introduced us to another of his DIY hydroponic systems. I'm here with Simon at the Aquaculture greenhouse here in Sheffield, and we're looking at different hydroponic systems used here. So Simon, this looks very exotic to me. What sort of system is this? What is this?
Well, this is kind of a bit of a modified DIY type system here. This plant produces a very popular yellow fruit. Have you got any ideas what it might be?
Oh, popular yellow, I'm guessing bananas.
Yes, it is. Well done. Yes, the reason why we've produced this type of system is one of the trends that we're seeing now with a lot of growers is that they tend to be growing much larger plants, and to grow much larger plants it's conducive to use a much larger pot. So there's not many systems on the market at the moment that are off the shelf that can do that type of method of growing. So we've modified a Wilma system here. We've put a large 35 litre pot on top of a Wilma 4 system, and we've created an irrigation ring that circles the surface of the pot, and periodically again we pump nutrient through that growing media. Again, it's just a way of helping people who are very busy with busy jobs that aren't going to be able to hand water their plants every day.
Yeah.
And this type of system kind of just will help with that.
Great stuff. So Simon, what's this one all about?
This is called the Flow Grow 500. It's manufactured by a company called Horticulture. It's a true hydroponic system. Why hydroponics works better than soil grown plants is the root zone environment. We have a much better balance of water and air, which is very conducive for healthy plant growth. This is what we call a recirculating system as well. So what I mean by that is we have a reservoir at the bottom here with a pump. We have an irrigation line here. We have a bed here where the roots are actually spread in using a medium called rock wool. Periodically, the nutrient is pumped from that tank where it refreshes the water and nutrients in that bed.
So what have you got growing here in this system?
Well, what we've got growing in these flow grows is some cucumber vines. As you can see, we have a long vine plant here that we need to suspend with these roller hooks here. Basically, we are conducting an experiment at the moment. We're developing a new product for the Vitalink range of nutrients. As you can see, we have some cucumbers on this vine.
Fantastic.
We're kind of measuring plant growth. We are also measuring the yields that we get off these cucumbers, and then we're comparing them to other systems just to see if the product that we're developing is viable for commercial future.
Brilliant. So Simon, are my eyes deceiving me here? I can see fish in here. What's this got to do with the system at all?
Yes, you're right. You can see some goldfish in there at the moment.
Goldfish?
Yeah. The system's not quite ready at the moment. We're still preparing it in some ways.
Okay.
It's called the Fish Plant Living Food Ecosystem. And essentially we are creating an ecosystem here. The fish that we cultivate in this tank at the bottom here produce certain waste products. We then pump that water into this bed. In this bed is where we're going to plant certain plants as well. We'll probably plant lettuce, spinach, cherry tomatoes in here. The plants then absorb the waste that the fish produce. They then filter that water, where the water then falls back into the tank, and the whole cycle repeats itself.
Fantastic. That is really impressive.
Yeah, as I say, it's not ready at the moment. It takes several weeks before the bed is ready for us to plant out into. And the reason why is that the fish are producing something called ammoniacal nitrogen. That ammoniacal nitrogen is being pumped into this bed, and we are using little various test kits to detect this ammoniacal nitrogen, and also something called nitrites as well. Now, there are bacteria in this bed that are starting to colonise, and they're converting those nitrites and ammoniacal nitrogen into something called nitrate nitrogen. Now, we also have a test kit that we monitor for nitrate presence as well. Once we start to see the nitrates in there, we can then plant out, and the plants can then start absorbing those nitrates as a food source.
Brilliant. That's a really good in-depth explanation there. Thank you.
Yes, no worries.
If you would like to visit the Aquaculture greenhouses, you can contact Aquaculture through their website. Visit www.aquaculture-hydroponics.co.uk. Our official magazine is now available online and in store, and you may have heard us mention HydroMag articles that relate to features throughout episodes 1 and 2 of the show.
HydroMag issue 4 is available in stores in May and June, but if you've missed out on previous issues, you can visit the HydroMag website.
In the meantime, we've created a short video to show you some of the features now available online at hydromag.co.uk.
In the first issue of the official HydroShow magazine, we look at the latest features built in to electronic lighting ballasts. There's also an interesting feature on indoor banana cultivation in Paris, and an in-depth fully illustrated article on building your first indoor garden. In our music feature, we also explore the ambient music genre. Issue 2 looks at growing in different growth mediums, detailing the different types that can be used in hydroponics or soil-based growing systems. You will also find an introduction to HydroShow TV, along with videos from Grow Expo 2012, the UK's only hydroponic trade fair. We also look into the 5 greatest adventure films in our 100 films to watch before you snuff it article. In issue 3 of HydroMag, we introduce the HydroMag Favourites section, where we recognise the industry's best product innovations. From aeroponics to NFT, HydroMag gives a comprehensive breakdown of all the different types of growing systems on today's market. We also feature some of the most elaborate grow room gadgets in our automated grow rooms feature. All this in an artistic yet chilling photojournalism piece on Chernobyl, a nuclear disaster site. In issue 4 of HydroMag, we feature the UK's largest hydroponic greenhouse, Planet Earth. We also take a look at Bloom Boost products with the expert opinions of 2 product manufacturers, Also featured is an article on the false economy of cheap hydroponic products, and to supplement Bill's planting seeds feature from episode 2 of HydroShow, you'll find a fully illustrated article on the same subject.
Sadly, that's all for today's show. Only one episode left in the series. Here's Nick with the lowdown on episode 6.
We find out the results of the first HydroShow grow test, soil versus hydroponics versus aeroponics. The girls make some ELU style hydroponic systems in the last presenter challenge. We interview Vitalink at Grow Expo 2012, and we take a closer look at the latest ballast technology in the HydroShow studio. All this, plus news, another competition and more, only on the world's first hydroponics TV show. Here's a reminder on how to enter the HydroShow competition. At the end of HydroShow Season 1, we're giving away a grow system of your dreams, including a full AgroTent vertical growing system, full ventilation kit, 2 complete digital lighting ballasts and a set of plant nutrients, all courtesy of Ecosystem. The prize, worth over £3,000, will be drawn at the end of Season 1 in September, and best of all, it's completely free to enter. By entering this week's competition, you'll be automatically entered to win the Season 1 prize. This episode's weekly competition is sponsored by Hesse Plant Nutrients of Holland. Entering this week's competition is simple. All you have to do is like the competition image on our Facebook page. The winner of the weekly competition will be selected at random after Sunday's show and contacted anonymously through Facebook. The winner of our grand prize will be drawn after the Season 1 repeat in October. Visit facebook.com/HydroShow. The HydroShow competition is only available to UK and Ireland residents. Further terms and conditions apply.
You can watch unseen features of HydroShow on our YouTube channel. Visit youtube.com/HydroShow TV.
You'll also find more hydro information in our magazine. Visit www.hydromag.co.uk.
Now, next week is our last episode in the current season, so make sure you tune in and don't miss out. But for now, it's bye from us. Bye bye.
See you later. Bye.
HydroShow and Hydromag can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr and YouTube. Stay up to date and subscribe to our online services now.
This episode of HydroShow is sponsored by HydroMag, the UK's independent hydroponics magazine.